Officers and agencies. In Louisiana, there are an estimated 609 law enforcement agencies, where law enforcement agencies are defined as offices and departments with peace officers. And you can click right here to see a definition of peace officers. So then right below this, we plot mapping law enforcement agencies in Louisiana. The map represents 609 law enforcement agencies from across Louisiana. You can hover over each of the icons to see the name of the department, and you can also select the department type on the left to filter for just these agencies. And this data is all coming from the Louisiana Law Enforcement Accountability Database. So if we scroll over some law enforcement agencies, for example, we can look at the university or campus police. So we can see that this is the Louisiana College University Police Department. This is the Loyola University Police Department. And then similarly, we can actually zoom in to have it a little less crowded. And I can allow all of these now. So here we can see all the departments. More so, we have a note here that the other law enforcement agencies category includes certain state and public parks, fire departments, coroner's officers, courts, military installations, district attorney's offices, and more. And you can get more of this information in the methodology. Here we also look at the frequency of law enforcement agency types in Louisiana. So you can hover over the frequency of each agency type mapped above, and then you can see the keyword section for a description of each type. So for example, we can see that police departments make up the vast majority of law enforcement agencies in Louisiana with 53.86%. And you can hover over other agency types right here. Or right here, you can filter out agencies. More so, if you want to download any of this data, you can just press the download data button and it'll download directly onto your computer for your own analysis. So if we click police departments, it'll remove it, and then we can look at the proportion without police departments. So since 1960, the FBI has collected personnel statistics, and you can click right here to access it, from 291 law enforcement agencies in Louisiana. So below we provide some of our findings. So in this graph, we graph the number of law enforcement officers per agency in Louisiana over time. Each of the columns represents the total number of officers for agencies reported in Louisiana between 1960 and 2022. You can select from the drop-down below to choose a department to examine and hover over the columns to see the number of officers associated with a given year. It's also important to note that there are gaps in years where agencies did not report officer statistics, even though the agency was operational. And you can download this data again by clicking right here. So for example, here we have New Orleans Police Department. So you can see that in 2005, there were 1,671 officers, and in 2022, there were 945. Or we can look at any other agency by clicking this drop down. So for example, we can select St. Charles Parish Sheriff's Office and see the number of officers over time. And again, you can download all of the data by clicking these download data buttons. Next, we can look at the average number of officers per parish in 2022. So we can hover over each parish to see the average number of officers per agency. Parishes that are coded white and unable to be hovered over had no agencies submit officer statistics in 2022, which was the most recent year that the data was available. So here we can see that while, for example, Vernon Parish only had 44 officers per reporting department, East Baton Rouge had almost 420 officers per reporting department. Similarly, we can filter out this graph by selecting one of these from the drop-down below. So we can select 350 through 400 to only see these agencies, or these parishes. More so, we can get a little more information. Note that select parishes are double counted for agencies that patrol multiple parishes, and the Louisiana State Police are not counted because they patrol all of Louisiana. In 2022, 175 agencies, 29% of all agencies in Louisiana, representing 57 parishes, submitted data for a total of 15,721 officers. More so, we can look at the parishes with the highest average number of officers per agency in 2022 and see that, as we mentioned before, East Baton Rouge has the most, second with St. Charles, Jefferson, then Orleans, and then St. Tammany Parish. Even though it appears that over time for most departments, the number of officers is decreasing, that is not absolutely true. Louisiana law enforcement agencies have grown significantly between the mid 20th century. In 1960 and between 1960 and 2022, the average number of officers per law enforcement agency has grown more than 67%, whereas the population in Louisiana has only grown about half as much. More so, the police presence in Louisiana communities has grown out of proportion to the civilian communities they police. Note that since 1960, the average number of officers per 100,000 people in the district the agency polices has multiplied more than 4 times. So here we plot that growth. So we're plotting the average number of officers per 100,000 people policed. The line represents the average number of officers per 100,000 people policed between 1960 and 2022. Hover over the line to see the average number of officers for each given year. So for example, in 1960, if we hover over this dot, we see that the average number of officers per 100,000 residents is 1.19, and this is residents policed. Whereas in 2022, we see this number skyrockets to 5.35. As the scope and scale of policing continues to escalate in Louisiana, it is imperative that we ensure accountability. Then below, we analyze data on police misconduct and incidents of killing in Louisiana. Thank you very much.